What's up, guys and girls and everybody in between? It is me, Sai, your anime protagonist VTuber and your host for our bi-monthly podcast right here on YouTube, the Deep Penetrating Thoughts podcast, where we go balls deep inside thoughts and then come to some realization where we either cry in a corner due to existential dread or cry in a satisfaction with the conclusions we make, or sometimes somewhere in between, confused, wondering what the hell just happened. If you guys have listened to the previous episode, we are now in that episode. This episode, we're in episode 5, right? We're in episode 5 of the podcast, and I have chosen this very topic because it is one of the biggest elephant in the room in the anime industry. Not just the anime fandom, but the actual anime industry. And to be honest, I actually chose this because if you guys are new and haven't listened to my previous podcast, I am in real life a social worker in a third world country. And if you're a social worker in a third world country, you are everything else. You are a social worker, a janitor, taking care of kids, taking care of orphans, taking care of teenagers. You are going to outreach. You are an all-arounder, to be honest. You will do every single job, no specialty whatsoever. I think I'm kind of qualified for these types of topics, especially when human psychology is involved, because I got myself into a program too as well that takes care, not really take care, monitor and take care of trying to cure and medicate pedophilic disorder individuals, people with pedophilic disorder. We are going to talk about this controversial topic, our Lolicons Pedophiles. And it's because I got inspired to make this episode because I'm kind of active right now on Twitter, and sometimes when I have nothing to do, I read stuff for what toxic people think, and it got into my attention that the debate of lolicons or about lolicon media has never died down ever since I became an anime fan. And I actually check social media here and there, and it has always been there, the anti-lolicon side of normies that telling lolicons are pedophiles, and then you have the defenders of the lolicon art on the other side, spewing, insulting each other, and talking a lot of falsehoods from based on their ideas, because it's a very hearty topic, and it has always been part of the anime community and in Japan, actually, in general too as well. So I'm here to actually explain things based on all my knowledge and all the facts that I know, and basically clear up a lot of misconceptions that are being shown in the internet in both sides. Actually, the antis and the defenders have fucked up beliefs on what this is, and we need to clear those things up before things go to hell or something. And that's why I chose this topic for episode 5, and hope you guys enjoy it as well. So let me tell you guys with a story. Let's start with the story. Personal life. I get to deal with people with pedophilic disorder too as well, because we have a program in the NGO I work with, and basically part of youth development and helping teenagers. If you are an orphan and you have a fucked up past, you got assaulted, but in most cases that especially have in our facility, some kids are victims of sexual assault when they were young. Some are victims of child abuse, and they just got rescued and sent to the institution. And when they don't get adopted, they grow up into teenagers with mental issues. some develop anxiety disorder, some develop antisocial behaviors, and there are instances of pedophilic disorder. This is part of a problem, especially if you have a very stressful childhood or a very stressful environment. It is one of the things that could manifest on puberty within a child. Once they hit like teenager person, and detecting it earlier could help them recover for to become normal people, because the older they get, the harder it is to prevent. And yeah, that's one of the base that's I think that's one of the bases why I'm qualified to talk to this, because I am inside that program. I actually have 7 people under my ACT group, and we're gonna talk to that later. Let's have some clearance first. So after this brief introduction of myself, if I'm qualified or not to talk to this, let's talk about what lolicon is. There are a lot of misconception in lolicon. It actually starts because Western anime fans tend to change the meaning of words based on what they feel or what they think it is. So let's start with the word lolicon. Lolicon stands for Lolita complex. Lolita complex is a term. It's a term that is coined by Japanese psychologists. It's basically describing sexual attraction to prepubescent girls, not the body type. That's the actual meaning of the word. The actual meaning of the word was derived from a Russian novel that was popular in Japan about a old man obsessed with Lolita. Lolita is a 12-year-old girl. So this old man is sexually obsessed with a 12-year-old girl, and this novel has become famous in Japan, and so psychologists coined it Lolita complex, so obsession with young girl. And then they have shotakon, which is shota complex, which is sexual obsession over little boys. It's actually pedophilia. If you translate it to English, lolicon and shotakon is pedophile. Because pedophile is a general term, but the Japanese tend to separate the attraction to gender from lolicon to shotakon. So if you call someone a lolicon in Japan, it's kind of an insult. You're calling them a pedophile, and this is where the confusion comes in, because that is the actual definition of the word, but anime fans, especially in the West, change the meaning. Like what they did to otaku. Otaku is supposed to be an insult to a person that is obsessed in one thing, particularly anime, so obsessed that it ruins their life. So they're basically losers that stays in their basement. You know, the typical redneck, the typical beard, Reddit user. I'm joking. But yeah, the typical stereotype for Western neck beard loser that has nothing to do with its life, but they have a lot of knowledge on a specific useless thing. It's an insult in Japan, but the Western anime community changed the meaning and made it into a badge of honor. Otaku now means an avid anime fan. Any fan of anime claims to be an otaku without even knowing the real word. The same with lolicon. So the question here is, are lolicons pedophiles? In the Western context, well, in the Japanese original context, it's yes. The answer is yes. But in claiming, like for example, in the West, so are all people who claim to be lolicons or, say they're lolicons actual pedophiles? No, because they changed the meaning. The Westerners changed the meaning of lolicon from an actual pedophile to a new meaning, just people who like lolicon media or loli media. So if a person finds a loli cute, they not sexually attracted, they actually claim themselves as lolicon. So even though, like for example, me, I find loli art very cute. I find them adorable. It's the same as normie people finding cats, kittens, and puppies cute, or sometimes babies. When you see them, you're like, oh, that's adorable. So basically, that kind of feeling. Most anime fans that are identifying as lolicons actually just find loli art cute and beautiful and eye candy. Those are that's the actual culture right now. But there is a minority in that group that actually find loli art sexually attractive, and sexually attractive. They get sexually aroused, especially when those loli art is pertained in a very suggestive manner. And that's where the problem lies, because these people still claim that they're alright. But I have bad news for you guys. If you and there are a lot of excuses out there, so I have to say one thing: if you are sexually aroused to a prepubescent body type, it doesn't matter if you say these are 1,000 years old lolis, or they are in rightful age, or there are people that makes an excuse. It's just a petite body type. A petite body type. Where did you see a petite body type that's totally flat, right? Okay, there are different types of lolicon. So you have a range of them. You have the taller, thinner with flat chest. Yes, that is a petite body type, but the preference of that is pretty rare. But there are a lot of people that like it, because sexual arousal is an instinct that makes its main purpose is for reproduction. So a normal person will be attracted to a female. A male will be attracted to a female body that shows the signals of healthy birthing signals. You have luscious lips, which means they are healthy. You have big bosoms, so they could produce more milk. They have large ass because it's part of the hips. It's birthing hips. So if they have like a bigger backside or very curvaceous legs, that proportion of it means that they can produce, they can give birth to a lot of children without getting their vagina and other organs inside them fucked up. So they could produce more children than the girls with not so developed ass. So those are the signals that a normal person should be aroused with, and everything else is just some sick fetish or some sort of mental illness. And in this point here, we call them situational pedophiles. Okay, they are in denial too. That's the problem. Some of them think it's all right because it's the problem with this type of mental illness is most people who have it feel that it's normal because it's the only experience they ever had, and sometimes they will justify it because they enjoy it. The problem here is most people have desires, and we enjoy our own desire. We desire things and we enjoy those desires. The problem here is not all desires are good. Okay, and some people would make an excuse. Yeah, they don't act up on it, which is good. You are a non-offending pedophile. So that's the clear distinction here. But now, since there are politically correct, you need to be politically correct now in the especially in the psychology field, because the term pedophile has become a negative connotation, because a lot of majority of the data of pedophiles are those who actually did the crime and assault kids. So the word pedophile now has a negative connotation, so we just leave the pedophile for the offenders, and then for the non-offenders we call them now MAPs, which is minor attracted people. But the medical term is still the same. They have pedophilic disorder, and it's actually a disorder. I'm sorry, buddy. But if you're a lolicon that finds lolis cute and nice, then you're fine. But if you're the lolicon that gets sexually aroused for sexually suggestive positions or art of loli, you need some help, buddy. I just want to say that people like that needs help. I'm proud that if you are just a map um, that hasn't you know went to consume real CP or try it with a real kid, but it's a problem and it can be medicated. You need to find help because it can be medicated. It can be removed by therapy, and I've seen it. The problem here is the older you are, the harder it is. But if it's detected at a very young age, it can actually be cured. I've seen it. I have successfully helped several of my ACT group, but some of them are still having relapses, but under medication they're fine. And that's where I'm at here. We need to clear up some of the misunderstandings of this disorder, because there is a movement in America right now that is trying to normalize this thing. It should not be normalized, because these are people that are attracted to people that cannot consent. That is wrong. We have kids at risk here, and it should be stopped, and it should never be accepted. The taboo should stay, but we also need a lot of professionals that would understand and try to actually save people who's not offending. So yeah, let's talk a bit more about the culture and why the Japanese are allowing lolicon media in their media. So because this has been controversial ever since BuzzFeed actually tried to make a article about the prevalence of Japanese media, the prevalence of lolicon in Japanese media, and lolicon and shotacons, to be honest. And it's not like the Japanese want it. There are a lot of movements in Japan that tried to censor it and remove it from Japanese society, but a lot of specifically the anime and manga industry and the artist associations were the first people or forefront to fight it, because it's part of their medium, it's part of their artistic expression, and it's also a big cash cow for them. But some Japanese psychologists too as well has tried to block the notion, because the East and the West in solution in terms of pedophilia is very different, because the Western the Western technique or the Western way is to actually outright condemn it, and to the point that people are getting hostile over it. Like even the normal people who doesn't even know what it is just thinks it's a sick kind of decision. It's a sick decision. It's bad. It's absolute evil, without even understanding that it's a mental illness. Most people, especially in the West, believe that it's not a mental illness. It's more of a choice. But I could agree with them on a certain degree. It's not. They don't have control over their desires, but they have control over the actions. That's why I am okay with, keep the cultural taboo. I want the cultural taboo to stay there, because they have control over their actions. Everyone has a desire, and everyone can have dark desires, but it's acting upon it that makes you fucked up. So, but the problem here is the very taboo itself is a double-edged sword. It's actually good for society, and also at the same time bad for these people, because they are being ostracized, they're being judged, and it actually prevents them from trying to seek help. And that's gonna be a woozy. So I'll explain deeper later in the episode, because this is gonna be a complicated topic. So before I drift off to explaining it, let's finish the ground and the cultural information there is about these type of things. So let's go back to the Japanese media. So these they got to oppose the removal and censorship of any type of lolicon or shotacon media in comics and anime. But there is a philosophical debate here. It's because the difference between lolicon and shotacon media, even though they're pertaining to both sexual acts, is real CP, or we know that I'm not gonna say the name, but we'll just call it CP, because you guys know what CP is. YouTube might censor this episode if I say the actual call, but real CP exploit real children, while lolicon and shotacon, doujins and other types of media with prevalence of lolicons and shotacons, and specifically the ones with sexual content inside of it, doesn't really exploit anyone, because these are fictional characters, and that's one of the defense of the Japanese on it. So it's not really that bad compared to real CP, but then again, it's still pertaining to it's still pertaining to a childlike body being exploited in adult ways. So on its own, it kind of is a little bit sick. Let's be honest, that is just fucking sick, especially to a normal person without the attraction to such a thing. It is disgusting. I myself find it disgusting. Okay, I honestly don't like it, but I will allow its existence, because we call this, actually my friends call this the nicotine patch for pedophiles. It's the nicotine patch for pedophiles. So the actual argument for it on the psychology side is it's a nicotine patch. Consuming real CP and actually trying to assault a child is a crime. It's like the cigarette. It's the dark thing that can cause cancer for the real person. Meanwhile, this media, look at this. It's very clean. It's disgusting, but it's very clean. It's the closest we have for a nicotine patch. It's actually a prevailing theory, especially in Japan, because if, let's say, a minor non-offending attracted person, so a minor attracted person, they're not offending yet, consume these media, beat their meat to it, and then have post-nut clarity, most likely they have a lower chance on acting upon their desires now, because after post-nut clarity, they're no longer interested in such a thing, and that's basically it. So it's more of a nicotine patch for people with this mental disorder, and that is why it's still prevalent in the East. It is something that will be controversial in the West, because most Westerners are really hard Puritans. They're Christians. There are the very culture of the Western world is in Puritan Christianity, which is basically even your thoughts are sins. So I could really understand the outrage that most Westerners will have with this type of philosophy, but it's kind of effective. The only problem in Japan now is there is no solution for the ones who actually do the deed. The ones that actually cross the line. And you see this most of the time in Japanese news, that there are like some molestation, some unsolicited photography, creepy guys going to high school girls. These are the people that the nicotine patch doesn't work anymore, and I want them to be jailed. The problem here is in Japan, though, they don't really have harsher punishment. So that's where I go to the West. So at least the Westerners have the punishment for crossing the line figured out. Most of them just, well, not all, because you still have a lot of offenders in the United States getting released. But here in the Philippines, it's a de facto death sentence. Well, the judge system is gonna, the entire court system, well, when they find a pedophile, they will send you to life sentence. Yes, it's a life sentence, but it's actually a de facto death sentence, because there is a code inside Philippine prisons, so makes basically prisoners, that if you are a convicted sexual assault, if you are a rapist, you're in the bottom of the totem pole. But if you went for an underage person, you'll be dead in a couple of months. You'll be dead in a couple of months. Someone inside is gonna kill you. So I think that's good. I think that's a good that's a good arrangement, because if you cross the line as a pedophile, you deserve hell. I agree with that, but I put the line somewhere in action. So if you have these desires and you want to be better, I will help you be better. I will help you try to integrate back to society. I will not judge you nor condemn you for what you have no control over, which is your desires. But I know you have control over your actions. You have no control over your desires, but you can reject your desires. You have control over your actions. So it's not an excuse if someone like if there's a pedophile that actually said that because she's suggestive and blah blah blah, they try to justify them assaulting a kid. No, I will castrate you myself if you do that, because I know you have control over your actions even though you don't have control over your desires. So I want the taboo to stay, but I also want that there are professionals that would try to help those who are not, because the current problem right now is we don't have enough professionals that can handle non-offenders to prevent them from offending. This is the same problem in Japan. The psychologist and therapy is very expensive, so they just resorted to allowing lolly media, getting free nicotine patches, and pray that majority of them will not act up on their desire because of the post-nut clarity situation. And that's basically what's happening here in the East. And it's actually effective. So it's kind of effective, but let me continue with my personal story. So I am in this program where we actually take care of orphans that become teenagers. And my first patient, let's just call her patient A. So patient A is a teenager. I got her when I was a teenager. So I'm just fresh off the seminar. So I was in the second year of my career. I was invited to be inside the program for taking care of people with pedophilic disorder, and I just finished my seminar, and I was given authority to actually form an ACT group. So ACT is Acceptance Commitment Therapy, Acceptance Commitment Therapy Group. So it could help non-offenders to actually integrate back to normal society, and if we can detect them earlier, we could actually prevent majority of the attack. So it's basically it's like alcohol for therapy group for alcoholics, but this time is for pedos. So my first patient is patient A. She's a girl, identifies as a woman. She's a shotacon. She basically she's a teenager. She grew up in the orphanage, and she never got adopted because she has a lot of antisocial behavior. She's a total introvert. She's a loner. She doesn't interact. She finds it hard to interact with other people, especially older men, because of her traumas when she was a child, because her mother died on an early age, and since the age of 4 she actually got assaulted by her stepdad repeatedly, her own stepdad. So her stepdad, because her dad died before she was even born, but she was still like in her mother's womb, and then her mom died at the age of 4, and then she was in the custody of her stepdad, and her stepdad sexually assaulted her for years until she was rescued at the age of 8. It's horrible, actually. She has a horrible experience, a horrible childhood. And then she grew up in the orphanage, and she was 16 years old. She was about to be 16 when I met her, because I just finished my training, and she was assigned to me, and she was suspected. She was actually suspected to have pedophilic disorder, and I was the one that confirmed it, because it took months. It actually took months for me to gain her trust, and it actually helped that I am an anime fan because she loves anime. This girl really loves anime, and in particular, she really likes shotas, and that's where we related on. We related on talking about anime stuff, and when we got so close to each other, she actually confessed to me that she has sexual arousal for little boys, and she likes to read shota dojins, and not just like the normal shota dojins. There are a lot of genres in the shota dojin. There are shota dojins that shotas try to blackmail the girls. She hates that kind of genre. She is specifically attracted to a dojin where the onesan or the milf or the older woman is dominating the young boy, and that I said confirmed, and this is worse than I thought. She's fucked. This girl's fucked up. And that's actually my first reaction here. In my head, I didn't tell her outright, but in my head, I was like, oh my god, I finally confirmed it. That I confirmed the institution's suspicions that this girl has pedophilic tendency, but it's worse than I thought. Like, what the fuck? An older woman trying to dominate a little boy, that's fucked up, man. But yeah, I guess this is the effect of her getting dominated by her stepdad. So I think it's an adaptation where she tries to dominate someone of the opposite sex that's vulnerable, because that's a childhood trauma that she has. And yeah, so patient A is like that. I have patient B. Patient B is a gay person. So to be honest, I have seven people under my ACT group. So my ACT group, 7, 2 of them are girls, 3 boys, and 2 gay people. So 2 gay people, 3 boys. They're all adults now. And yeah, it all started for the first year of my it's the 3rd year of my career, but it's the first year. I was 26, so the 3rd year of my career as a social worker, but it's the first year that I was in charge of the program. And at first, actually, I'm not saying that I'm this saint that actually have understanding eyes and try to understand them. Deep inside, I was still very judgmental of these people. I actually think they're sick. There are times that, especially when the boys are trying to justify their preferences, making excuses like we're the main topic we had is always anime. So when they're making excuses like she's 1,000 years old, I'm only attracted to the so and so called body type, and I'm actually deep inside my body like I want to strangle this guy. But I'm a professional, so we have to understand them. And that's when I actually realized that these people doesn't even realize that they're sick. And that's the problem, because it's the only experience they ever had. And the first part of the therapy is to actually convince them. That's the reason why it's acceptance and commitment therapy. So you make them accept that it's wrong and make them commit to try to make themselves even better. And then when they're older, we can actually prescribe medication for them. So this is the difference between LGBTQ and pedophilia, because I know like there is a movement in the United States right now, it's specifically in the US, that there is this organization that's trying to normalize minor attractive people or minor attractive persons. They try to normalize their desires. They're even adding it to the LGBTQ movement. The problem here is, they're saying it's just a sexual orientation. It's just another sexual orientation in the gender spectrum. Wrong. It's not. Because the problem here is, even though, like, let's say the LGBTQ seems unnatural because, sexual, as I said earlier, sex drive or sexual desire is an instinct that is supposed to make you attracted with the purpose of reproduction. So you basically get sexually aroused on a specific person for the sake of reproducing or producing kids. So let's say it can be said as an argument that gay people are natural because they're attracted to the same sex and they cannot produce babies. Yeah, that's basically it. But the second part of this is Most of the LGBTQ condition cannot be medicated, cannot be therapied. We tried for 30 years. Since the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, we have conversion therapy, and we tried every single hormone therapy. We tried every single anti-depression stuff like that, and they just became worse. For the past 30 years of considering it as a mental illness, we have never cured a single gay person. Most of them got even worse. Most of them just got depressed and unalived themselves because of the procedures. It's wrong. We tried everything we have on our disposal, and it just made these people worse. So we are forced to just accept them. And that's how gender theory was born. Gender theory was born is because we tried to cure gay and lesbian people, but they just became more depressed, and most of them unalived themselves. So maybe this is not an illness, but part of the human condition. So that's how gender theory was born in the 1970s, because it is assumed that it's no longer a mental illness, but actually part of the, it's like lactose intolerance. It's an evolutionary adaptation or something like that. It's unnatural because people who can tolerate milk are mutants. They only appeared 10,000 years ago. They didn't appear before the dawn of Homo sapiens. Most of human history since 100,000 BC, we cannot actually consume milk. It's just 10,000 years ago when people that can drink milk began to appear. So in gender theory is that we're saying that maybe the gay and the LGBTQ condition is an adaptation of an adaptation on a very stressful environment, because it occurs in nature. It actually occurs in nature, but it occurs more frequently on animals under custody. So if you have animals in the zoo compared to the animals in the wild, there are a higher chance of homosexual behavior within custody, behind cages, than it still occurs in nature. So it's, in theory, it's just an adaptation to a very stressful environment, and it's part of the human condition, and it's no longer a mental illness because we tried to cure it and it just got worse. The difference between that and pedophilia can be medicated. It can be removed. It cannot be fully cured. It's a lifetime therapy thing. But when a person or with pedophilic disorder and tendency get their meds and attend regularly their therapy, they feel normal. Most of them become better persons too. So that's actually the difference here, because pedophilia is curable. It is not curable. It can be medicated. It's kind of like bipolar disorder, and it's also like it's like bipolar and schizophrenia. It's a mental disorder that can be medicated. And the only difference between pedophilic disorder and schizophrenia and bipolar is, at least in schizophrenia and bipolar, they have no control over their actions, but people with pedophilic disorder have control over their actions. So that's why I'm still saying that, so it's kind of like in the middle, that we can actually say that it's a sort of mental disorder that we can still put responsibility on the person with the mental illness. So because unlike bipolar syndrome and schizophrenia, where when they start to have their own manic attacks, they have no control over their actions, pedophiles have control over their actions. They can actually plan their actions too as well, because this is one of almost the common trait too as well with pedophiles. Based on my own experience on my 7 patients, they are fucking intelligent. They can actually keep up with intelligent conversations, and so that's actually, they have higher IQs too, so they are smarter than the average person. So they're smarter than the average person, and they can actually overcome their own mental illness. So basically, they have control over their actions. They have no control over their desires, but they have control over their actions. So it can still be understood that, all of us have dark desires that we don't have control over, but we have control over our actions. So they can still be held responsible. So the acceptance, that's why the acceptance of pedophilic disorder, the acceptance of pedophilic disorder as, these are individuals and those desires are not wrong, being accepted, the movement in the United States that the acceptance of minor attractive persons as a sexual orientation is wrong, because they can say no to that. Even they can say no to that, and they can medicate themselves so they won't feel those desires anymore. And it's actually effective, because we actually have drugs that are administered to our patients, except for the therapy. They're required now that they're adults. They only have to come once every 3 months, but when they were teenagers, they have to come with me every single week, and we have to try to give them the therapy. But we also have let me check the list. I forgot the list. We have a lot of what you call this, medications from it. And so basically, gonadotropin releasing hormone antagonist, or GnRH. We have ciproterone acetate and medroxyprogesterone acetate. I cannot read this. These are fucking medical terms, but we just call it GnRH, CPA, and MPA. But these things are very expensive. It's actually really expensive, and it's a good thing that my group, they all grew up as great people. They become very, very professional, and they are ahead in their field. Like, for example, patient A, she's my favorite actually. Patient A, because she's my first patient, and she's very proactive. She's very smart, and she's kind of sober now. So we got her in medication. She's a banker. She's my banker now. She basically works in a bank. She got hired when she was she's now 23. So she graduated at 21 but in commerce. She got hired in a bank, promoted in 6 months. So she got hired in the bank, promoted in 6 months, and she has a senior position now in a well-known bank here in our local area. And she's very smart. She's my local banker. She helps me with my finances. And that's also a part of the ACT therapy, because we convince them to actually choose a profession that lets them have minimal interaction with kids. So that's actually part of it. So we have to acknowledge. So if you are a person, so I'm actually one of my motivation in letting out this episode is I'm hoping that there are some actual lolicons out there who would stumble upon this episode. And I just want to say, please get some help, because it's curable. It's nice to feel what it's like to be normal, because a lot of people think that their desire is normal, but it's not. And please don't make excuses about like it's just a prepubescent body type. No, that's actually what we call what do you call this? I don't know, in nagdadahilan in Tagalog. It's nagdadahilan in Tagalog. I don't know the English term for it. I forgot. So it's not making excuses. It's basically justifying. They're just trying to it's trying to justify your desire because you don't want it to be wrong. It's the term of like people tend to justify their desires because they don't want their desires to be wrong, so they try to justify it in other means, even though actually it's objectively wrong. So that's the term I'm trying to think about. I forgot the term, but that's basically it. You're just, so it's actually wrong. It's wrong to be attracted to a prepubescent body type instinctively, even in a scientific perspective. And the good thing here is it can be cured. Not cured. I cannot say cured because it's a lifetime disorder that you have to it can be medicated. It can be medicated, it can be minimized, and you can actually know what it's like to be attracted to an older body type and not sexually aroused by petite body type, stuff like that. And patient A, she's kind of okay now. She still have relapses. She has relapse episode from time to time, and that's how she knows that the meds are wearing off. So if the meds are wearing off, she has relapses. But now she's kind of normal. She likes BTS now. She likes older men. Now finally she likes older men, that Asian men specifically. So she likes Korean type kind of guys now. Before, she didn't like any type of even teenage body guys. She really likes short, small kids, and she gets sexually aroused with that. So that's the bad part. But she no longer feels it when she's medicated, and that's what she says to me. And yeah, we actually all hang out every once a year. Not once a year before the pandemic hit. Actually, even after the pandemic hit, we still try to hang out with my patient. These are my AT team, and because they're under my responsibility, it's a lifetime commitment. Unless someone can replace me, someone more professional can replace me. But since I'm monitoring them even in their adulthood, they are required to at least talk to me. They're required to talk to me at least 4 times a year. So every time they have an appointment, we just go. Sometimes I go to Manila and we just hang out there. We actually schedule it during Comic-Con. So there's a Comic-Con. When there's Comic-Con in Manila, I go there. We all hang out in Comic-Con at the same time, because I find it like giving them a sense of community also helps, because this is it. So we need people who are keeping the taboo intact. We need the ignorant people. It's harsh, it's sad, but it's necessary. It's like a necessary evil, because the most common thing I found out with my 7 patients is most of them didn't act up. They didn't act up upon their desire because they fear they fear that they can be ostracized and judged by society. Okay, so the fear of separation from society, losing everything they have, and the shame they could bring to their families, if some of them have their families now, the shame they would have their families and friends, prevented them from acting up their desires. So we need the bigots. We need the bigots to stay bigoted. What we're lacking here is we need more people too as well on the other side that would give them a community, because I think what common is, like, I also got to interview some actual pedophiles who got caught and they're in prison before they died. So at least before they died, I got to talk to them, and most of them have been isolated. They have nothing to lose. So since they have nothing to lose, they just act up upon their desire, and then boom, they do the thing. They cross the line, and we have to kill them. we have to castrate them. The inner gangs kill them. So it's not really the police that do that. It's the inner gangs, but the police are not stopping it. But yeah, that's it. So if we give them a sense of community, something they would lose if they do the thing, it's a preventative measure, because most of these people will not go forward and try to make themselves better, especially since the medication itself is very expensive. It's really expensive. The only reason my patients can afford it is because they become successful. So after their teenage training, after they got themselves degrees and paid for by the institution, scholarships by universities too as well, because they're smart. They really are smart. So patient A is a banker now. The other girl is in sales. She's a sales manager in a mall. 2 of the boys have their own business. One has a coffee shop, and the other one has a trucking business. here in he actually has a fleet of trucks that does logistics. The other boy I have is a stockbroker. He's actually responsible for my for my retirement account. He's my stockbroker. Then you have a banker. My banker is a girl. And then the two gay people that are under my group too as well. One has 3 branches of beauty parlors, while the other one is a fashion designer. She a fashion designer locally that he makes clothes for stars in my country, and I won't name, but I won't say it because I don't want to get doxxed too, and I don't want her to get doxxed. But yeah, they're very successful in their own fields now, but all in common, we all love anime. So we all hang out together, and especially every time there's Comic-Con, we assign that let's have a group therapy in Comic-Con. And so we all go to Comic-Con, paid for by the institution. I get paid by the institution to go to Manila to gather them up. We all go to Comic-Con, and it's tax deductible too as well. So it can be deducted from tax because I'm helping people, and that's a win-win situation right there. I get to part of work, go to Comic-Con. And yeah, so basically I love those guys, and I kind of get it now that if we can like save these people, they could offer something good to society. These people have become successful, and they are several years sober now. They're kind of sober now. They had their episodes, but they never act up on it, and they tell me when they have episodes, they just after that they just take meds and they go back normal. So this is a medicatable what you call this is a medicatable condition. You can actually lower the desire, and so basically we should not judge. I'm just saying we should draw the line, I guess. Majority of people are either trying to support them and normalize them because they don't have control over it. They're wrong. While the other side is, let's condemn them all, burn them at the stake, every one of them should be castrated. I agree with them in some degree, but they want to condemn even those with their desires. So no. So I want to draw the line. The line is somewhere between action. So if someone consumes real CP, actual CP, and people who actually tried and actually assaulted a child, you have my go. Let's castrate them. Let's alienate them from society, lock them up forever, and drown them in the Pacific Ocean, whatever. But if they haven't done anything yet and they just have these dark desires, we should try to help them, not accept them. We should never tolerate their desires. So this is the problem with the other side, the defenders. Even though they're coming from it out of compassion, there are people that are on those side and out of compassion. I disagree with tolerating it. You should not tolerate it. We should tell them that it's wrong. That's part of acceptance compliance therapy. Tell them it's wrong, make them realize it's wrong, and convince them to commit to try to fix themselves. That's what we should do, and it's very effective. It's actually effective. There's got to be relapses, but at least they are morally responsible enough not to act up upon their dark desires and try to cure themselves. And that's the right approach. That's the actual approach. Not the ones that are being proposed by pro people on the West. Like, I don't know why the West is so extreme. Like, there are people that have extreme... I don't know, maybe it's just the loud ones in social media and in TikTok and YouTube and Twitter and stuff, but majority of the people stands are just too extreme. Like, why most Westerners stand are always extreme. It's either castrate them or just accept them for who they are. Both of those positions are fucked up. The real productive decision is the one in between. You do not judge them if they haven't done the deed, but you should not tolerate the desire, and you should actually tell them that that desire is wrong. So that's basically part of the cure. That's like step one, to actually convince them that, and then finally give them a sense of community so that they would know what they would lose if they cross the line. And then after a few years of such things and such therapy and such conditioning, they can actually become productive members of society, and society wins after that. Because these guys, in my experience, these guys are more intelligent than the normal person. They're very, very smart. So they have a lot to contribute in the world if we can redirect their intelligence into something productive and stop their dark desires from manifesting. So even though the taboo is in there, so the taboo is required to be there, but we need a lot more professionals to actually help, because that's what I see. There's a real lack of professionals that could help these people. And if you are one of those people, so again, I'm making this episode hoping that there might be some lolicon out there that wants to be better. Please get some help, okay? Try to find an actual psychologist that actually specializes in this matter, and make sure that you are you need to move forward. I know sometimes it feels like it's okay. That's the first thing. A lot of people would have this mental illness does not realize that it's wrong, and when they know it's wrong, they try to justify it. They're trying to justify their feelings because it's their feelings. They feel it's normal. They have no experience beyond what they are currently experiencing, so they feel their experiences are normal, even though it's not really normal. And it's going to and that very feeling itself that forces them to isolation, forces them to have antisocial behavior, to get themselves substance abuse as well. They get stressed, and that's how we get a lot of depression. And then when you have nothing to lose, you're alone, then they act up upon their desire, and that's how you make a monster. And we don't like monsters. So once they're a monster, they're beyond redeeming, and it's sad, but they have to be punished. But those who are still not crossing the line, if there's anyone out there and you are sexually attracted to a minor body type, okay, you can consume lolicon media if you cannot afford the medication or you cannot afford therapy. Sure, it's a nicotine patch, whatever we call it, the nicotine patch. So it's kind of like a temporary, it's like a temporary relief. But if you have a chance to make yourself better, please go get help. Okay, it's not normal. Normal people are just gonna ostracize you, and you should not take pride on it. It's a lonely existence, and I really hope you become better one day, and hopefully you find a good career path where you can be successful on your own. But yeah, so let's have final thoughts. We can have final thoughts. So the final thoughts we could have in this episode is, first of all, we must never judge people with these desires, because not judge. We could. I'm kind of guilty of this too as well. I did judge them at first. Okay, I did judge them at first, but we just have to realize that these people with these type of desires are sick people. Should we tolerate it? No, we should not tolerate it. we should always draw a line between actions and desires, and if they have their desires, we should not judge them immediately. And don't judge the person, judge the desire, kind of thing. Hate the sin, not the sinner, type of thing. So you say to them that is wrong, and offer a helping hand. The problem with most people is they would just judge someone and never offer a helping hand. So if you found out someone has this kind of problem, do it as gently as possible. Just say that you won't judge them, but please get some help and try to offer help, because the condition can be medicated. The problem here is if they're an adult now, it is kind of hard to remove it now when it's an adult. It's some people say that it still works as an adult, but it's gonna be harder compared to a younger person getting the same therapy. So I think there are more other more effective therapies, like androgen deprivation, maybe like androgen deprivation, and other type of therapy. I forgot the other ones. Cognitive behavioral. So cognitive behavioral therapy, maybe aversion therapy, but ACT, like acceptance commitment therapy, is effective for non-offenders on a younger age. So it can be medicated, and it can be, they haven't felt what it's feel like to be normal yet. So we need to convince them to get help, because society will win if we can actually bring them back. If we can bring them back to normalize, to live normal lives, right? Living a normal life is kind of nice, and not be ostracized by society. And we need to help these people before they even cross the line, and that is the right way for us to prevent them from becoming a monster. Because trying to we still have to control them. Like, for example, once you have people who have this disorder, so it's basically kind of like bipolar people and schizo people. We don't put them into situations that would trigger their mental illness. So if there is someone who has pedophilic disorder, choose a profession that doesn't make you deal with kids, so it makes you stay away from kids. If you're gonna choose an apartment or a house, live 5 kilometers away from a playground, a school zone, or an orphanage. Try to help yourself and prevent yourself from doing things. And when you get the chance to medicate yourself or have therapy, go get help, and you can live a more fulfilling life with it. You can become successful and productive once all those dark desires are gone. You can focus on career and building yourself as a better person. And so yeah, that's basically it. I'm hoping that you guys learned something from this episode podcast, and yeah, that's it. So next episode, I think we're gonna talk about AI art. So since I think the emotional what you call this, tremor, the emotional response for AI art and the outrage of artists has now died down, so I could safely talk about it. And as you can know, if you check out my streams, I also stream with AI art, and I actually advocate for AI art. And I would actually I will tell the reason why it should not be condemned, and should just be accepted as part of progress, because that's gonna be the topic for the next episode. Is AI art evil? I don't know. I don't know what the title yet, but look forward to it. So yeah, I guess that's it for this episode of Deep Penetrating Thoughts podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. See you guys in the next episode. Have a good day, guys. Goodbye.